on spot at 70 basis points at the moment. But straight ahead on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, the UK Chancellor set to deliver the biggest spending budget in a decade. How much of that will be on the infrastructure that the government wants versus having to deal with coronavirus? That's next. This is Bloomberg.
With the Bloomberg Business of Sports Report, I'm Charlie Pellet. Brought to you by Grainger, America's trusted source for industrial and safety supplies. Visit Grainger.com. The International Olympic Committee and local organizers say this year's Olympic Games are on, but the clock is ticking amid coronavirus fears. The fate of the Tokyo Games touches 11,000 Olympic and 4,400 Paralympic athletes, coaches, and sports officials, local organizers, the Japanese government, and national morale, along with international broadcasters, fans, and world sponsors. Major League Baseball says it does not plan to alter its schedule because of the coronavirus outbreak. In a statement, the league said, quote, while MLB recognizes the fluidity of this rapidly evolving situation, our current intention is to play spring training and regular season games as scheduled. And that's the Bloomberg Business of Sports Report. I'm Charlie Pellet.
The market's in focus every business day. The P&L Podcast with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz.
Are there some sectors that you want to have more or less exposure to?
What's behind this engine of gains?
Analysis of the day's Wall Street action.
The U.S. market looks relatively safe.
From Bloomberg Intelligence, Bloomberg Opinion, and influential newsmakers.
Ward McCarthy joins us right now.
P&L with Paul Sweeney and Lisa Abramowitz. Listen today on Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts.
Hello, I'm here to tell you that age really does bring wisdom, and you may still have plenty to contribute. At Eisner Amper, we're successful at helping business owners and entrepreneurs assess and plan for the future, as well as maximize where you are in the present. If you're curious about how to plan for both your professional and personal future, come and talk to us. I'm Lisa Stewart, principal in charge of the Center for Family Business Excellence, and I'd love to help you to find the right path forward. You can find us at eisneramper.com/family.
Asset manager. Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, lunch in Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
This one shouldn't take long. Of course, if it had a cover, I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. And then they'd have chained the back wheel. It would have taken me much longer, especially if the chain's off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
On average, in London, a scooter or motorbike is stolen every hour. Make sure it's not yours. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel, and cover to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover. The Met Police.
Delayed at the dentist, and now you're late for school pickup. You need a free now. Need to take the dog to the vet before lunch. Should have gotten a free now. Trying to get 4 kids and their baggage to the airport. Free now. Sometimes you can't get from A to B fast enough. Download the Free Now app today for quick pickups and reliable drivers, no matter the situation. Less hassle, more hustle with Free Now.
At the Bank of Santander, they've created Stan, a smart bot that can predict the future of remortgaging.
All right, Stan, will my mortgage rate go up?
1955 was the last time Newcastle won the cup.
No, try not to mumble.
Playing, let's get ready to rumble.
Oh.
Meanwhile, at Santander, they can't predict your future, but they'll help secure it with great mortgage rates fixed for up to 10 years. See what's possible at Santander.
Early repayment charges apply. Lending subject to status and criteria. Your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayments on your mortgage.
The government has coordinated and streamlined its coronavirus messaging, but is it the right message?
What's really necessary is for the people in the government who don't know the details to stop telling us things like there will be a vaccine in 1 year. Stop it. That's not helpful.
Making sense of the noise and the silence on this week's On the Media from WNYC. Listen to the On the Media podcast from WNYC Studios on TuneIn today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Cook into the end zone From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow and tune in on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn. The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
The bond markets this morning we trade at 69 basis points for US benchmark yield, so another big move as yields head down by 11 basis points. UK yields at 27, so gaining 3 basis points after that surprise interest rate cut by the Bank of England just about an hour and a half ago, and also ahead of the Bank of England giving a press conference later. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index weaker 0.2%, the pound stronger 0.3%, and in the oil markets, actually we head lower, down by 1.6% on WTI crude futures $33.79, Brent crude at $36.70. So that oil price shock continues.
Now on to some of today's top stories. The Bank of England's cut rates by 50 basis points. At a special meeting, the Monetary Policy Committee voted unanimously to reduce the rate. The central bank's also introducing a new term funding scheme in excess of £100 billion with incentives for small and medium businesses. And we'll have full coverage of the Bank of England presser today at 9 a.m. London time.
Also today, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak will use the budget to promise record infrastructure spending across the country. He'll pledge £600 billion by the middle of 2025, but the extra money is likely to be overshadowed by the coronavirus. The government is also preparing to offer money to businesses and also to the healthcare system to cope with the fallout.
Well, speaking of the virus, the Conservative Junior Health Minister Nadine Dorries has become the first MP to be infected. The 62-year-old confirmed she's self-isolating at home, but she started to become unwell on Thursday. Now, that's the same day that she attended a Downing Street event hosted by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Meanwhile, when it comes to Italy, the Italian government is set to double the amount of fiscal stimulus that it's going to offer to tackle the coronavirus. It's increasing the amount of money on offer for the fourth time in just a month. That's after the European Union agreed to stretch its budget rules to help member states fight the outbreak. Italy is now looking at as much as €16 billion of additional spending.
Right, let's get the latest now in global news, and we can go to Leanne Gerrans. Now, Leanne, you start in Spain.
Yes, good morning, Roger. The Spanish government has announced further measures to try and contain the spread of coronavirus after ordering the closure of all schools and universities in Madrid. Bloomberg's Rodrigo Orihuela reports.
The new measures include banning all flights from Italy, suspending trips organised by the State Welfare Agency for the Elderly, and having all top league soccer and basketball matches played behind closed doors for 2 weeks. The government also said it is looking into new social and economic measures to help fight the spread of the virus. Madrid, Rodrigo Orihuela, Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
In Spain, there are currently 1,622 confirmed cases and 35 deaths. Now, Australia will open as many as 100 pop-up clinics to test for coronavirus. This is part of a $1.6 billion package. The 112 confirmed virus cases in the country at the moment and 3 deaths. The clinics will be staffed by doctors and nurses and will be able to cater for as many as 75 people a day over 6 months. Prime Minister Scott Morrison's multi-billion-dollar economic stimulus package, believed to be aimed at supporting small businesses and cutting export costs, will be announced on Thursday. Now, in the U.S., Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has won Michigan, the biggest prize of Tuesday's primaries. He also won in Missouri, Mississippi, and Idaho, further widening his lead over Senator Bernie Sanders. Next week, the focus turns to Illinois, Ohio, Florida, and Arizona. And finally, Vladimir Putin has set the stage for him to stay on as Russia's president for potentially another 16 years. Bloomberg's Henry Mayer says this reverses his past opposition to scrapping term limits so that he and only he can continue to rule the country.
Putin, 67, made the announcement in an unscheduled speech before the State Duma, the lower house of parliament, after a surprise appeal by ruling United Russia lawmakers for him to stay on as president beyond the end of his current term in 2024. In Moscow, Henry Mayer, Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
Global news 24 hours a day on air and on Quick Take by Bloomberg, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Leanne Gerrans. This is Bloomberg Caroline.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Leanne Gerrans. Well, now to politics here in the UK, where we get the first budget since 2018 at 12:30 p.m. Today. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, only in the job for around 4 weeks, is set to outline a huge increase in spending on roads, railways and much more. But then there's also the virus. Spending related to this is likely to dominate proceedings as British businesses that have been put under pressure by the outbreak already look to government help. Joining us now in our London studio, Rain Newton-Smith, who is the chief economist at the CBI. Very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Rain. Look, what should the government do in the face of the virus now?
I think it's the time for taking calm, measured action right now. And we've seen the Bank of England act this morning. All eyes are now on the Chancellor. And I think what we want to see is that real focus on making it easy to support our health services and people. And that's the primary concern. I think, secondly, it's about how we support the wider economy. So the Bank of England action is really important, thinking how we can make sure that credit flows through the economy. There may be businesses and sectors we know now are particularly affected. Those in tourism, in hospitality, are finding things difficult. And I think as we see more people needing to self-isolate, that could extend. It will be for a short period of time. So what you want to do is to make sure you have emergency funds that those businesses can protect as many jobs as possible, and that we ensure that all critical services are getting to the people who need them over the coming weeks.
But is anything really that the Bank of England, the Chancellor, can do actually going to put off the horrifying fact, perhaps, that we can't avoid a recession, that maybe the situation is so bad just because of the virus that at least for a short period that is simply unavoidable?
I think at the moment we don't know that. What we're seeing at the moment is some impact on growth this quarter, but I think we can also look at the experience of other countries. And if you look at what's happened in China, they had lots of measures. They used technology. They used their very best of their health services to really contain this virus. And now what we're seeing is production has opened back up. And I would expect that over the next 6 months, China is really able to support growth in their own economy. And I think we'll see that here. So it's going to be a difficult few weeks, but I think if we are calm, measured, and we have the policies we need in place to act quickly, we will get through this. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that businesses are really saying is, yes, we need some emergency measures in place in case we need to activate them. But the other thing we really need to think about is some of the long-term decisions. So we want to see those critical decisions on infrastructure, on innovation, on skills. We want those decisions taken now, because that gives confidence that we will get through this, and we need to think what kind of economy we want in 6 months' time, as well as being prepared for the immediate.
I'll point out, Rain, as you I'm sure will well know, China acted swiftly, yes, and wholeheartedly, but of course it won't stop the first quarter GDP figures are looking, absolutely cratering, frankly. But what about the government strategy when it comes to the actual action on coronavirus? The hand-washing campaign, is this actually a good strategy? I mention this because it's been pointed out in other countries. This is the minimalist approach, is it not? It's also the kind of behavioural psychological approach rather than action like cutting schools, shutting large events and so on. Is this the right strategy?
I think for the moment it is, and I think what we're seeing from government is there being guidance, scientific evidence. And I think we are looking at self-isolation as being really important. And I think when you look at how businesses are preparing, they are thinking about how they can support as many staff as possible to work from home for periods of time, how they can make sure that other people are trained in some of the critical roles they may need, so that whatever happens, they can keep goods and services being produced in factories and make sure that goods and services can get to the people. 6 out of 10 European
workers have not worked from home in 2018. Are we any better positioned in the UK?
I think we are better positioned from the businesses I've been speaking to. They've absolutely been putting measures in place, whether that's simple things like having laptops for everyone and making sure that everyone takes them home every night. Thinking about how you communicate with your staff when they're working from home. These are things that businesses are absolutely doing now. Now, look, in some sectors you cannot do that as easily, but I think those businesses are thinking about what measures they can put in place to be prepared.
So briefly, Ray, not a shutdown like we've seen in Italy. You don't think that would be a way of tackling this head on in a way that would get rid of it perhaps more quickly?
Look, I think that's really one for the government, and it really depends how the virus moves around and what happens from here. Businesses are prepared for that, if that's what we come to. And I think the other thing we know from experience in China is that these are temporary measures, and you need to think about when you use them to make them as effective as possible. That's what we want to see. I think businesses want to see that calm, measured, prepared approach to what we are facing, but also thinking we will get through this. We can see that from other countries, but we need to do whatever it takes now to be ready to face the weeks ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us in the London studio. That's Ray Newton-Smith, the chief economist at the CBI. Obviously, as businesses, as government, the Bank of England, trying to prepare the country for the coronavirus, the impact on people and workers here. This is Bloomberg.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Witham offers an elite team of seasoned specialists providing world-class advisory, audit, and tax solutions to the financial services industry.
Hi, I'm Tom Angel, partner and practice leader of Witham's Financial Services Group. Witham is a nationally recognized advisory and accounting firm serving private equity, venture capital, hedge funds, broker-dealers, 40 Act funds, and SPACs. We provide customized support to our clients, especially emerging managers. Our deep experience and expertise makes Witham the firm of choice in the financial service industry.
Visit Witham.com to contact a member of Witham's Financial Services team.
Elite advisory firms rely on BNY Mellon's Pershing to meet the needs of their most complex clients. Karen Novak, Chief Operating Officer at Pershing Advisor Solutions, explains how.
At BNY Mellon's Pershing, we bring customized insights and strategies to help you grow your advisory business and stay on the leading edge. We can support the needs of your most sophisticated clients with a full range of investment and wealth management solutions, from access to private banking to consolidated bank and brokerage custody. Learn why so many of the largest advisory firms turn to us for the financial strength and high-touch service that BNY Mellon's Pershing can provide. Are you well positioned to stand out from your competition?
Learn more at Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. Brokerage custody provided by Pershing LLC and other services provided by Pershing Advisor Solutions LLC. Both members of FINRA and SIPC. Private banking and bank custody provided by BNY Mellon NA. Member FDIC.
Pershing.com or call 800-445-4467. This one shouldn't take long. Cool, should it have a cover? I might not be bothered. Can't see what's under there. Don't chain the back wheel. Would take me much longer, especially the chains off the ground. Makes it harder to cut. This one doesn't even have a lock on the front. So, in the time I've been talking to you, I've nicked it.
On average in London, a scooter or motorbike is stolen every hour. Make sure it's not yours. Lock your bike, chain the rear wheel and cover to make it harder to steal. Lock, chain, cover, the Met Police.
We've all been in one, but how much do you really know about black cabs? For instance, did you know that a black cab has to be tall enough to accommodate an individual wearing a bowler hat? That's a lot of space for you and your briefcase. Or that Free Now drivers can use the bus lanes, the perfect getaway to make your meeting in time. And with 2-minute central London pickups, you needn't waste time searching for a taxi. Just download the Free Now app today and take the hassle out of getting round London.
Welcome to Costa, the nation's favourite coffee shop. What can I get you?
A flat white, please.
And would you like to enter the 10 million point Costa Coffee Club giveaway?
Yeah.
And collect points towards free coffees and treats in store.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Registered Coffee Club members only. 18 plus, GB only. Excludes Northern Ireland. Purchase required 9th of March to 5th of April. For question, what is your favourite brand of coffee shop was asked. See costa.co.uk for full details and T's and C's.
Hiya, Johnny from
This ad will be of absolutely no interest. Nothing. Nada. 0% interest, in fact. But that's exactly what SEAT are offering. 0% APR across our entire SUV range until the 17th of March. So for just £249 deposit, £249 per month, you could drive away an award-winning SEAT Arona. Which, if you think about it, is interesting. Visit SEAT.co.uk.
With Solutions personal contract plan based on Arona SE technology on 48 months, 10,000 mile per annum agreement with £7,008 optional final payment. Stock vehicles only. Minimum 10% deposit on Taraco. Indemnities may be required. SEAT Financial Services.
Hey, love. Who's this lot?
Oh, they arrived with our new BT TV box.
Right.
That's the Night's Watch, Marcus Rashford, and Catherine the Great.
Who's hiding behind the curtain?
Shh, that's Jack Ryan. Don't blow his cover.
New BT TV, the new home for all the channels you love, including Sky Atlantic, Sky Cinema, Sky Sports from Now TV, Prime Video and BT Sport. Watch TV like never before. BT, beyond limits.
New customers, BT TV available with BT Superfast Fibre, 24-month term, terms apply.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Like what you're listening to? Want to make getting back to it easier? Use the favorite button to keep track of the stations and podcasts you love on TuneIn. Just tap or click the heart icon to add it to your favorites. Then find all your go-to audio under the Favorites tab. Pretty easy, right?
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn. When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on QuickTake by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg's global headquarters in New York, I'm Anne-Marie Horder with this Bloomberg Radio Business Flash. Shock and awe this morning for the financial markets, given we have the BOE coming out with an emergency rate cut by 50 basis points to 0.25%. All major European indices are higher this morning. The FTSE 100 up 1.6%. CAC, DAC, the FTSE MIB, and Spain all up more than 2%. What investors may like about this is a dual approach from the BOE, delivering a large rate cut, but also they're targeting aid to businesses, given the economic backlash from the coronavirus. Next, the spotlight goes on to the ECB. Bloomberg just had a scoop out this hour saying Lagarde warning of a 2008-style crisis. We'll see what she delivers tomorrow. In currencies this morning, we do see the euro 1.1323, a little bit firmer against the U.S. dollar. The pound clawing back some of the losses. We saw a drop when that rate decision came out. We're at 129.51, so just under 130 on cable, which I'll be tracking closely while I'm in New York for the time being. In U.S., though, we are seeing futures lower on the S&P 500, 1.2% down. This also comes as President Donald Trump failed to show up to that news briefing that he said he was going to deliver this major economic plan, and that is getting some of the concern here in the U.S. market. And then in oil today, we have to talk about oil given the price collapse on Monday. $37 on Brent, down 0.4%. This really comes this morning as Saudi Arabia says they will boost their maximum capacity 13 million barrels a day. That is something we haven't seen in a decade, really ramping up that escalation of the price war with Moscow. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Now here's Leanne Garrins with more on what's going on around the world. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Anne-Marie. Some industries in the Chinese city of Wuhan, where the coronavirus outbreak began last year, are now set to resume. That's according to a statement from the provincial government. Key sectors such as public transport, medical supplies and producers of daily necessities will be allowed to return to work. But all schools in Hubei will remain closed and people are still not allowed to leave the province. Across Africa, officials are bracing for the rapid spread of the virus. There are concerns an outbreak could devastate the region, which accounts for 16% of the global population, but just 1% of healthcare spending. The fight against coronavirus would